So now let's turn this off and let's work with this original picture, this last few minutes, and show you what some of these other things do, because there literally is so much. Okay. So let's go through the menu bar. These are just like utility things: save, save as, export. So search Adobe stock. Adobe stock with the Adobe, I was telling Elise yesterday, with the Adobe that I have, you don't have access to free images on Adobe stock, but if you added it, it would be like a Getty Images, or it would be like an iStock library where you can just get free images. But again, I'd say Pexels and Unsplash is your best bet. Um, um, and automate. These are all things to do. Like automate, you can, I believe automate is if you need to save a lot of images at once, all JPEG, all 300, all 10 by 10 inches, for example, you can automate something so you can do it rapidly without you having to do it. I'm pretty sure. I don't know everything again. Edit is you can toggle last save. What does that mean? I'm not really sure what that means. But you could probably go back and forth and see what you did. You can check your spelling. Again, I don't do a lot of text work in Photoshop, but you can. This is really cool. Let me show you what content aware fill is. Okay, so for example, let me see if something good. Okay, I'm gonna try it with this. I'm not sure it's gonna work. Say you take your lasso tool and say I want to remove this fence. I don't know how well it's going to do, but sometimes this tool is amazing. And then you say edit, and then you do content aware fill. You have this little thing that pops up. And you see how it took it out for us? You say okay, it gives you a preview. Say okay. And what it does is use the content in the back and it deletes it. But you see how there's this little piece here? With that, you can go in and do your lasso tool. And then edit, content aware fill, see if it'll do it again for us, and say okay. Now they automatically gave you different layers, which is nice. You can do like this. You can soften up your edges here. No, it's not that great, but you can make this bigger. Change your opacity, make this bigger. And you can do a pretty good job of taking it out, right? I'm gonna go ahead. So content aware fill is a really, really great tool too. Okay. But you know, also like there's just so much to show you. Like you see, we've almost done 2 hours and it's just been just the tip of the iceberg. But I'd say you can change your modes here to grayscale. You have to flatten your image though, so you have to be ready if you let me see. Okay. So you can change to a grayscale image. You can change it to index color RGB, which is for screen, CMYK, which is for print, lab color, multi-channel. You can change it there. Adjustments, brightness and contrast, levels. Like I said, you can change your levels. This is your dark. This is your light. You can play around with so many different things. You can auto tone. It auto adjusted it for you. So it saw, I guess, too much pink, so it auto adjusted, which I think it did a little drastic, but it did take out some of that red if you saw. You can auto contrast. You didn't really do anything. Oh, I did a little bit. Let's see if I can. Okay. Okay, good. All right, so I just had to Control Z. Sorry. You can oops, you always have to have your layer selected. Adjustments, you can auto color. I don't know what that does. Huh, interesting. So, just play around. That's all I can say about being a play, 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 play. Um, okay. Elise just sent me a message. Okay. I just read your message, Elise. Okay. Um, so what I was just telling her is just play, 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 play around. And there's just so many things. There's lots of type options. Like, let me show you guys this. This is what I wanted to show you. The filters. The filters have a lot of great options. Okay. So there's a filter gallery. There's all these different things. Let's start with 3D. No, let's start with blur. Say you want to, this is a really good tool. Say you want to blur, but say you had, this is a layer, but you want to really show her face sharply. So you can take your erase tool, turn this down, make this bigger, and you just wanted to like bring out certain parts of your photo. You want to bring out the flowers. So you have it on different layers, but you have this blurred layer. There's just so many options. You want to show her hands, whatever, or you can do it opposite, but you can do things like that, different effects. Oh wait, I don't want to do that. Okay, good. Trash this. Let me copy this. Okay. And let's see what else you can do up here. There's something really cool I want to show you guys. I think filter gallery is it. Okay, yes. Okay, so filter gallery. This gives you some really neat effects. We'll focus in on the flower here. So say you wanted a look of a colored pencil, you can have this option to make it look like a colored pencil. And you can play with your strokes. You can play with different things here, your preferences. I'll show you what it looks like as a whole picture. It'll take a second. I just looked up a tutorial recently because I was doing this logo and I needed the people to look like cartoons. Oh, that looks creepy. But I'll show you another effect. And there's things that you can do. If, say, for example, you want to figure something out, just say, how do you make people look like posters in Photoshop? And there's so many tutorials. And now that y'all have been in here, you can sort of know the lay of the land. So you can figure out where things are. Another filter, which is really cool. It's taking a second.
And yesterday you both did this or the other app, the other program, Illustrator.
What's that?
Yesterday, which one do you
Oh, we did
this
Illustrator.
one or Illustrator?
Illustrator. Okay. Yesterday we did Illustrator. Okay, so cutout gives you this, like, it really looks like a cutout, number of layers, levels, simplicity. How do I make this smaller? Okay, there we go. So if you want to look like this, which is really cool, edge fidelity, you just play around with things and say you want it to really look like a poster. It just has so many options. This is dry brush, which looks pretty similar unless it's changing something. I don't really see any changes there. Film grain, fresco, neon glow. I don't know, that didn't really change anything. A palette knife, this sort of makes it look like a painting, which is sort of neat. So anyway, those are in filter gallery. There's just different little options that you can do. And you see it takes a little while because it has to think on these. But this can be really cool effect if you're trying to do an effect on a photo, if you're trying to create like a poster image. Like, for example, say there's an image I took and I want to look like a cartoon. I might bring it in Photoshop, make it look like a cartoon, and bring that image back into Illustrator and put text over it. Okay. All right. Any questions about this section?
No.
Okay. All right. Let's see. So there's 3D things you can do, different ways to view, plugins, window. This is the same thing. Say you want to see windows, you can do shapes. You can bring up your shape menu. If you want to see patterns, you can put pattern menu, and then let's see. Oh my gosh. You can fill it, I guess, with the pattern, which is interesting. There's all kinds of stuff. There's stuff that's already built in, but a lot of times you're thinking I would never really use this.
And the plugins, what is the Photoshop need plugins? You need to
at the top here,
that too? Yeah.
plugins panel. Let's see. Get started installing plugins to streamline. Okay, so let's see what discover plugins are. It might be things that
Oh, you never use it. Okay. No. I thought you did use it. Okay.
Yeah. Like I haven't used everything in here, but okay, so for example, here's some plugins. Advanced fine art editing, realistic blur and shadow, something, and these are actually
interesting. Didn't
yeah.
know that.
So some things are like, I think that's what these are. Yeah. Some things are like people created ways of doing things that make things go faster or easier. There's also brushes you can download that people have already created. There was these watercolor brushes that I downloaded. I did this thing where it looked like watercolor when you use a brush. So there's so many different things. Like literally, this is what I was telling Elise. If your brain can think it up, it's probably already been created. And you just Google. Like, again, this is a very basic intro, and I do know that. I don't know everything. But I have used Photoshop for years, and a lot of these things I've never used, but I've been using it for 20 years. So there's just
you know more than us.
Well, it's just yeah, but you guys can know just as much as I do, because you basically, I mean, with any program, it's like you use what you use, and if you need something, that's when you learn it. And that's with all these programs, because I've taught, the Lord has helped me learn all of these programs. I was going to say self-taught, but really the Lord has just helped me learn all these programs, but he'll help you all learn them too. Anyways, the whole point is that there's a lot to learn, and I don't know everything, but I know if I don't know something, I still Google how to so-and-so all the time, even though I've been doing this for 20 years for all these different programs. So I just think that that's my biggest suggestion. But now that you're in here, it's not that intimidating, right? It's like now that you sort of know. And I think that was my biggest, when I was praying about everything, like my biggest things, like just take the edge off, just so you won't be intimidated. But there's a lot you can do, pretty much anything your brain can think of. So that's really all I have. But again, if you want to know more, I don't know everything on these menus, but if you want to know more about it and you're interested, just look it up and Google it. What is character styles in Photoshop? What is clone source color? The Lord will help you, but YouTube can help you. Everything can help you, give you information. So that is my biggest suggestion. But I really wanted to show you the basics. I wanted to show you things that I use all the time. Everything I showed you is what I use all the time. And now there's other things that you might need every once in a while, but those basic things about how to erase things, clone things, change colors. Let me just show you one last thing, is how to export. So when you file and save as in Photoshop, you have some options here. You have a Photoshop file, PSB, which I've never used, a PDF file, which is very familiar, which is a great viewing file if you have something that you want to show a client. As you know, a PDF, pretty much everybody can open up a PDF. And a TIFF file I use very rarely, but I have used them before. But usually it's PDF file. Now, you see on this list, you don't see anything about a JPEG or a PNG. So to see that, you do File, Export, Export As. And then this gives you a little bit more options. Go, let me do it. Export as. Okay, here we go. This gives you JPEG, it gives you PNG, and it also gives you a GIF. Okay, So JPEG, you can change your width and your height. You can change your scale. You can change your quality. I always do the highest quality. That gives you the most crisp lines, excuse me. And then if you want to do a PNG, you can do a PNG. And those files, a PNG and a JPEG, are easily viewed by anybody who don't have Photoshop and they don't have the Adobe program. So that's a way to get that. So you have to file export when you want to do something like that, like JPEG or PNG, and then file save as. When you save as a Photoshop file, it'll save all of your layers. And that's why I highly suggest keep a Photoshop file separate from everything else you save. Save your Photoshop file with all the layers, all the groups, all the everything, and then save a separate file when you're exporting it. If you just want to view it, show it to your client to view, do a JPEG, but keep them separate, because as soon as you make a JPEG, it flattens the image and all of your work, you can't get to what you did individually. You'll just have that one flat image. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Yes,
So yeah, I think that's really it. That's all I have for you guys, unless you have some questions.